something even more fascinating about your journey is that you've operated at the highest levels in both creative and analytical fields, making a $2.5 million art business and becoming a world bridge champion. So, do you think this combination of creativity and strategic thinking gives you an edge in problem solving and strategy?
Yeah, I think kind of. And the reason I say kind of is I believe that creativity is not really what people think it is, because creativity is almost a form of structured problem solving. And I've been watching Culinary Class Wars. I don't know if you have seen that show. It's a cooking show.
Yes.
And when I see, chefs create dishes, the thing you have to understand about creativity is the ideas don't come from nowhere. They come from a combination of things that you have experienced and things that you've seen before. And being creative is a matter of putting these different ideas together in a way that creates something new. And so when you are structuring your thoughts and solving problems with the framework and in a structured way, it actually helps you like almost be creative, but in a way that like people don't usually associate with because I think when we think about creativity, it's almost like it's like talent, right? It's something amorphous. But I think at least when I was doing artwork, a lot
Mhm.
of the time it was a matter of thinking through as like, okay, I want to draw this thing and I want to give off this feeling. And I know these elements are going to give off this kind of feeling and then, putting it all together. And I think that is something that is helpful in all walks of life. I think very, very specifically, being having the art background is helpful for making nicer looking slides. But that's just, that's not a major thing.
Right. So, I think bridge also trains you to think in very specific ways and kind of opens up your mind. So, what do you think are some mental models that bridge that can be applied from bridge to everyday life and decision making?
Yeah, I think an important one there is probably just recognize which information you need to give at what time and how you are going to be most valuable. And when I say that, I don't mean it in a bad way, but it's just when at every phase in your life, in your career, you're going to be working with a lot of different people and just thinking about what they need to know and what they need specifically from you and trying to provide that. This happens a lot in bridge where, so there's a concept called the captain. And I think for example, if you open one no trump, which shows 15 to 17 and a balanced hand, you've described your hand really well. So it's actually your partner that becomes the captain, right? So in that case, you don't really have to think about anything besides answering their questions. But then in certain cases, when you're bidding, when both parties are involved, then you might have choices of, let's say I open a spade and I have 6 spades and 4 hearts, and partner bids a no trump, and I have to decide, do I show my 6 spades or do I show my 4 hearts? What's the information that is more important? By the way, generally you should bid 2 hearts because
Mhm.
the theory is that you're showing 9 cards about your hand instead of only 6. But in certain cases, maybe showing the 6 cards is actually more important, depending on how the auction has gone previously.
Definitely. So, other than being a world champion bridge player, you've also created over 100 lessons, videos, and lectures on bridge. So, how do you actually break down these complex ideas and concepts so people can understand it easily?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons that I feel well suited to teaching bridge is that I actually started teaching kind of soon after I began, right? So I started playing bridge in 2011 and won the world championships in 2016 and then sort of started teaching around the same time. So I was still fresh enough that I remembered how I learned and the things that I was confused about when I was learning. So I think that has helped. But then the way that I usually structure my lessons is I start almost like in a staged way, like start with like basic concepts and then go a level deeper and then go a level deeper. And I think the other thing that is different from the way that I teach bridge compared to the way that others teach bridge is I try to go all the way down to like all the follow-up options that are necessary in a simplifying them, but
Okay.
really going through all the nuances so that people understand if you're going to play a convention, here is all the implications from playing that convention in other auctions. And I think that's an issue that people screw up a lot because you agree to play a convention and then you just haven't thought about, well, this other auction changes now because we said that we were going to play this.
Right. And then other thing I think is people really adopt conventions without thinking about the reason behind why that convention is needed. So if you don't have that thinking about actually why you're implementing that convention, it becomes more of just memorization rather than understanding the need for that um idea.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. I think people do that way too much. That's why I always encourage, if you're starting, you want to focus on the card play. It almost like goes in stages where like you need to focus on the card play first, then you do need to focus on the bidding because you don't want to, you don't want to be like losing in the bidding, and then you go back to the card play, and then you go back to the bidding. Yeah.
So what do you think another big mistake people make when trying to learn something difficult in bridge or otherwise?
I think it depends a little bit on the person in terms of learning mistakes, but I would say that probably a mistake that people make is not really like trying to learn something that they're not really wanting to learn, I guess. I think that if you feel energized by bridge or anything else, then you're automatically going to learn it better. If you're just forcing yourself, then, just put it off and just learn the thing that you're more energized about. I put bridge off for years. Like I knew kind of what bridge was, but it was only until like I mentioned, in 2011 that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it because I have the energy for it.
Right. Um, so where do you see bridge evolving over the next 10 years, especially with AI becoming more prominent? Do you think um it'll make players better or maybe reduce human edge and intuition?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So Bridge AI is obviously really good at card play, um, but really terrible at bidding right now. And I think that it being very good at card play makes sense because bridge card play ultimately is quite a lot simpler than other games like chess, for example. Chess, if you think about how many moves are possible in chess versus how many moves are possible in bridge, just like the number of moves is way, way lower on any given hand, right? So where the challenge in bridge is really in the lack of information. So obviously, when you play chess, you can see all the pieces. When you play bridge, when you're declaring the hand, you'll always only see two of the hands, right? So the two of the hands will be unknown. But if you gave a set of bridge cards and you told like it was like face up, and then you fed that to AI or computer, it would get it right like 100% of the time. And honestly, humans would get it right like pretty much 100% of the time too. So it's the uncertainty piece. I am not sure how, with like the advancements in AI, what that means for bidding. And the reason that I think that bidding is also challenging is that the way that AI works is it's trained on data, right? And if you don't have a lot of data, then it doesn't really work. And there is actually not a lot of consistent data out there because in the bidding, people play different conventions, so things will mean different things. Plus, probably the largest amount of data is what's available on like Bridgebase, and that's like people mostly just doing random things, I guess. So, so it is interesting to me where it's gonna go. My intuition is that there's not gonna be enough resources focused on a bridge AI for it to really
Mhm.
become better than humans anytime soon. And also the fact that there's no really good data to train it. And then the people who are focused on maybe training are not actually like top players usually, so they don't really aren't able to like create the data well. I think that if you really wanted to make a really good bridge AI and you got a few like really good players and then just had them like create data to train the AI, then I think that it could probably become pretty good.
Right, definitely. I mean, da having good data sets, clean data sets is one of the biggest problems that like training an AI model probably faces nowadays. Um, so a quick rapid fire now. What is
Okay.
one word you would use to describe Bridge?
Hmm. Elegant.
Okay. What is one skill everyone should learn?
Learning how to be calm and nice too in bridge would be your partner, but in life it would just be nice in general.
Right. Um, what is the best decision you've made?
Oh gosh. I'll answer this just in terms of framing of my mindset of life is just deciding that, hey, you know what? When I do something, I'm going to just try hard and do it to the best of my ability, which is, by the way, is a decision that I only made like around 2019, 2020-ish, like so pretty new.
Okay. And what is the worst decision that you've learned from?
I guess on the flip side, it's really like pursuing goals, not experiences. So, for example, trying to achieve like a landmark or, like, I don't know, like make a certain amount of money or anything like that. I think it's not gonna drive happiness.
Like, don't be greedy.
Yeah.
Um, okay, Bridge or consulting? What excites you more today?
So right now, consulting, that's why I'm doing it. I'm having a great time really just getting exposure to all the things I wanted to learn about. I still play bridge like partially. So as I mentioned, I play worlds and or try to play worlds and nationals. So I think there is a future where I play more bridge. But for now, I'm really loving what
Consulting.
I'm doing.
Right. So now, after everything you've experienced across bridge, business, and life, if someone wants to become better at thinking, not just in bridge, but in life, where do you think they should start?
Well, honestly, I think that if you want to become better at thinking, you should play bridge. If
Okay,
you're not already, I think that in addition to thinking skills, it also helps with social skills and like reading cues and understanding people. I think it's just a great game all around.
definitely. Because I think bridge is just a game of inferences and uncertainty.
Exactly. And it gives you so many opportunities to deal with uncertainty so that you can then apply those skills to the rest of your life.
Definitely. Okay, Sylvia, this was incredibly insightful. What really stands out is how the ability to think clearly under uncertainty, to balance logic with intuition and creativity, is a skill that extends far beyond any one domain. So, thank you so much for sharing your perspective. And to everyone listening, thank you for tuning in to Bridge to Success. We'll see you in the next episode.